You're listening to Learn as You Parent, the podcast that gets real about raising kids. Because let's face it, parenting doesn't come with a manual. I'm your host, Sarah Beth. Let's dive in. Today, I'm really excited. We are going to be talking about swim lessons and safety in the water with Coach Barb. Barb has been a instructor for how many years now?
42 years, going on 42 years.
42 years. And with that, she has so much experience. In addition to being a coach, she's also is the mother of 4 kids and I believe a grandbaby.
Yes, 2-year-old.
2-year-old grandbaby. So tell me, Barb, how did you even get into swimming?
I have always been around the water. My parents grew up in central Illinois, and we always went to see our grandparents, and we were in the lake all the time. And so I've moved 14 times, 6 different states. And when I moved to Dallas in 6th grade, we got a boat and been water skiing ever since, and have done the same thing with all of our kids. Had a boat and water skied, and that's just what I did. And actually, when I lived in Pennsylvania, I was on the swim team for 2 years.
Oh, gosh.
See, that would have been 4th and 5th grade.
Okay. Wow.
So,
yeah, we had a boat when I was growing up, and we got rid of it before I could actually learn how to water ski. I am really sad about that, but I did get to go on the inner tube, and that was awesome. Love being on the lake and the water too, and always wore a life jacket, of course, on the lake.
Oh, for sure.
But for me, when I was young and when I was about 4 years old, I almost drowned in a pool. And my mom tells me this story about how my sister basically saved my life. Mm-hmm. And because I had ear tubes and I wasn't supposed to get them wet.
Right.
My mom was just talking to a friend. My mom was actually in the water, but her back was turned at the time. And my sister says to Mom, Sarah Beth's getting her ears wet. And then all of a sudden she looked and I was underwater and of course, grabbed me and everything was fine. But it's really a really important subject. It's the, number 1 killer in children ages 0 to 4. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes. And, your story, what you're talking about, and I'm sure you have felt this until you were able to swim, is you have these bad tapes in your memory. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to go back and, erase that and learn how to swim because you might be scared. I don't know if you were scared or whatever. And I totally get that. And I see that all the time. Teaching.
I don't really remember that whole experience, but with me having a 4-year-old daughter, Zaza, and you have taught her before. With her, she also had ear tubes. And I think there's a lot of fear with maybe getting your face wet and all of that. So you obviously, experienced this age a lot. And with that, what do you say when a child is saying, I don't want to get my face wet?
So in what age are we talking about?
4 and under.
So, you just encourage them, be positive, it's going to be okay. And also, it depends on whether they've had an incident or not. But if they're just starting, mommy loves the water, and whatever you're showing them or doing, you pour water on your face and you do your child or whatever. And just everything's positive, having fun, and that mommy and daddy are going to be here with you.
So you've taught so long. What made you decide that that's your calling?
So my mom made me, my brother and sister all be swim instructors and lifeguards. So I've been lifeguarding since 15.
Oh, wow.
And even when I graduated college and had a real job, I still taught swim lessons on the side.
Oh, okay.
And I got my degree in commercial recreation and tourism and grew up in Plano Parks and Rec and didn't want to do that, but came back after I wanted to start having kids and stop traveling with my real job. And I became the head of aquatics for Plano Parks and Rec.
Oh my goodness.
Back in the 80s. This is before we even had the real rec centers and all that, but we had 3 pools. Anyway, I don't know. It just it was what I was supposed to do. And now I definitely know that that's what my calling is I've almost lost my life twice. And I just know God wants me to continue saving lives. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, that's great. So tell me, a lot of parents that are in this really early age, they don't even know kind of where to start. They know, okay, I need to get my child lessons, or I need to make sure that they're safe around water. How would you advise someone just to start looking and how to evaluate what options are best?
Well, it starts in the bathtub. And I feel like today's parents are, a lot of them, over the top. I've even seen, a little thing that parents have put on their kid's head when they're washing their hair and stuff like that, so the water doesn't go over their face. I'm serious.
Oh, one of those visors.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
No visors. Okay. You want your kids, really starting at when they can sit up, or I started my grandson at 4 months. Most of the programs, the water babies or the little ones, they can start them at 6 months, but in the bathtub. And I can show you what to do, or we can get into that later, of what we can do in the bathtub. But, pouring water over their head, doing it with a cue, making a big deal about it, and, clapping, yay. And there's a lot of also land drills that you can do with little kids.
Tell me more about that one.
So you would, I set my grandson in my lap,
okay,
and I grab his legs, tell him to point his toes, and we do kick, 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 kick. Roll him over on his stomach on the couch or something. He's on his tummy, and we're doing kick, kick, kick. Okay, we take his arms, and just like we do in the pool with all ages, we have a little toy that floats. Okay, and I'm behind him. Even, we pretend like there's that toy, and I grab his arms and, okay, James, scoop, scoop, scoop. I did it last night when I was at his house, because we took my 85-year-old dad over. Show Papa how you do your arms. Oh, seriously. And he's going like this. And he's even reaching. It blows me away. Wow. He's amazing.
You said he's not even 2?
He just turned 2.
Okay.
But he's been doing that before 2. Yeah. And then, blowing, you get yourself some bubbles. Okay. And you ask the kids, show mommy how you blow. And you get some bubbles and blow with them. You're blowing out.
Yep.
Or even in the bathtub, blowing bubbles.
So the first thing before we even get to how to evaluate swim lessons is the bathtub, as you said.
Yeah, bathtub. And then from there, you could look for lessons, but I can.
So, Zaza had really not liked water getting poured over her head. So I actually almost probably bought one of those visors. And I remember when you were teaching her, and, when she still complained about the water in her ears and she hated it so much.
And 2 of my kids, by the way, out of the 4 had ear tubes.
Oh, did they have, and they had the same issue with not wanting to get their ears wet when
no,
okay.
Not really. And it's really is one doctor said no problem going under the water, and the other one said you got to have
earplugs.
Earplugs.
Oh,
so it's crazy what one pediatrician said and the other. Ear tubes, or don't like the water in their ears or whatever. Any kid that doesn't even like water going down their face. Okay, which I have incorporated this swim cap only in the last 3 years, just with experience from other kids. And when I'm teaching, a lot of times, as each child is different and each swimmer is different, sometimes I just have to go in the back of my head and figure out something different for each person. Even my adult beginners, and stuff that I haven't even used during the years. And this is how the swim cap came up. And so when you're pouring water, even in the bathtub, on their head, the swim cap, the water goes away really fast. So your hair is like a sponge. Okay. So you have the water in your hair, and it just keeps coming down. And the kids or adult beginners don't like that. So it really helps. So
every kid is different. And
yes, for
Charlie,
sure.
my youngest, is really fine with the water when he's in the bathtub. I think I've always dunked them with pours of water, but I remember from the lessons, you kept saying, just do more in the tub, more in the tub.
And in the tub, what we want to do, or even in the swimming pool, and you're holding them, is just a little bit of water. You take a cup or something fun, like a big shell, put water in it, and you want to do it with a cue. Okay. And so the cue is their name. Okay. And then ready, set, go is what I use for all my kids and my grandson, or 1, 2, 3, go, or 3, 2, 1, or whatever. But whatever your cue is, you need to be consistent and use it every time. Okay. So we're going to pretend. Okay. So we got the water, a little bit of water, and you say their name, Sarah Beth, and you're all over the place. I got your attention. Ready, set, go. Pour the water. It comes down the head, and they're going or screaming bloody murder or whatever, and you're going, yay!
Okay, I need to do that because I have not been doing the cueing. I just kind of dump the water, so I can add that in.
Because you need to get their attention. And not only that, but we carry that over to the swimming pool. And just like the rule in the swimming pool, I would say in the bathtub too, American Pediatric Association, no more than 3 bad submersions or water over their head per practice swim time, per bathtub or whatever. So what is a bad one? They're screaming. They ingest water. If they're whatever and they're fine, then don't do more than 3. And then once you're doing this conditioning and they're fine, and even when we're practicing in the pool or whatever, then they're ready to do underwater submersions. And again, we use that cue. You're holding your kid, when we're ready to do this, and you're saying their name. They're all over this, you get their attention. Sarah Beth, ready, set, go. Okay. And just, clap. Yay. Good boy, good girl, whatever.
And if it's a bad one and they do ingest water, then do you still clap and say yay, or do you stop?
So you're not knowing they're ingesting water, right? You did the water. Okay. You're clapping. Okay. And they start to ingest water. You take your hand on their back and hit. It's okay. Yay. You still did. Good job. Mommy's right here. Everything's okay. That kind of thing. And each child's different. You know the way to make your child feel good.
Yes.
I learn the way once I'm, as I'm teaching.
Well, that's a great tip. I just learned something as I'm parenting. And I can definitely incorporate that into bath time with Charlie.
Yeah.
And so the blowing bubbles is a key part.
Right.
Also, the going underwater and preparing them with your cue is another part. Is there anything else that just a parent can do in the bathtub?
Well, they can still lay, the water, I guess, isn't deep, right? And can they lay on their tummy? Okay. And kick. You can even have them lay on their back. And you can have fun with it when they're sitting up and floating, squirty toy, whatever, in the water. Even though the water's not right here to them, still, this thing is floating and you're trying to get it and scooping. Okay. The other thing about, and I would show this in the water, because again, your child isn't in a bathtub like this, right? If you have a hot tub, you can still practice all these things too. It's amazing. The last couple of years, I've actually done swim lessons in hot tubs. Would have never thought about. Again, my families, I learn new things through my families, in different situations. But the one thing that I've learned over the years, you talked about blowing bubbles, and especially too with my adult beginners, is that's something you want to teach and all that. But number one is I need you to get under the water. Okay. Because to swim, you have to float. To float, you got to put your face in the water. Okay. And when you put your face in the water, it makes your body come up. All right. So, a lot of instructors, they're like big on blowing bubbles and all that. Again, I just want you under the water. So I'm always going to demonstrate if we can do that. If the kid knows how to hold their breath. Okay. I'd say, okay, Sarah Beth, because you know how to hold your breath. Okay, go. And I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, you can breathe. Okay. So then a couple of times I do that. Then I have them try to go under and do it because they can hold the breath here. So we try it that way. And if that doesn't work, I'll have kids that I'll even say, okay, hold your nose because I can get rid of this.
Right.
Just like a parent can get rid of the sucking thumb. Or the pacifier, or the sucking thumb.
Right.
right? I mean, I'll try, like I said, I get in the back door and I try to figure it out. What works for your child isn't going to work for another.
Right.
As parenting, we know that, right?
That's true.
So we just want your child under the water. And again, try this in the bathtub that way.
So I know with Zaza, we worked on steps, and as you know, so Barb would come over to our house, and with Zaza, she actually worked a little bit differently when Dad was in the water versus Mom was in the water.
That happens,
and
right?
I think when Dad was in the water, she was a little bit more needing help, you could say. Yeah. And then when Mom was in the water, she didn't need as much help. Mm-hmm. And so I would say one thing that we worked on were we put those rings right there that we have. And you said you can get these.
Oh, these are my favorite rings. Amazon used to carry them, but, and also Leslie's Pool Supply, but Shields. And they're like all of $7.99 for 4 of them. And the thing about them is they are weighted, but they're also like they're going to last forever. I have actually one from Leslie's that's 20 years old.
Oh, okay.
If I still have it, I'm leaving rings in all kinds of pools, you know. But the other thing, it is weighted and then it stays under the water. And one of the things, you know, so they can go under and get this, you know, anything that sinks, you know, go through your house, go through your kids' toys.
Right.
Okay. What they like, they're going to want to go get. Okay. Right. Of course, I mean, as a swim instructor, I have something new coming and they're going to want to get, I mean, for boys, like their cars, anything that sinks. And what that does is it gives them a motivation to get underwater.
So I remember the rings. We had practiced with you, and in our pool, we actually have a few steps.
Which is
down.
Great teaching.
And
facility.
What Zaza would do is she would get the ones on the top step really easily. But then the second step, she didn't want to put her face in, and she would go like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that was one of the big hurdles that we had to go through with her. Mm-hmm. And I think she just hadn't gotten used to really blowing bubbles in the water and getting her face at least a little bit comfortable. And then that's when we had to, you have to work on a lot of different things.
Right, and kind of back up.
Right.
You know, and start over.
Right.
And I mentioned this a million times, and I can go ahead and say this again, and I'll probably say it again later. But once you start, you know, conditioning and moving forward and doing other things, whether you're in swim lessons or not, you need to go practice as a family at least once a month. Because if not, you're back to square one, especially as they're growing from 6 months to 5 years.
Right.
Okay. And I preach parks and recs pools or rec centers or whatever, because it's open to anybody. You don't have to belong. You may pay $2 more because, you know, you don't live in that suburb. But who cares?
Right.
You know, or in the parks and rec programs that you do live in that suburb, it's going to be $2 less. Right. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's tons of facilities around that you can belong to and go whenever you want, but that's a little more expensive monthly. There's so much around in our Metroplex.
Right.
So no excuses.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's hard to go.
Yeah. One thing we did with Zaza, and we went on a trip to Florida in November of this past year, and to get her prepared, I, of course, being, you know, beach and water, she was nowhere near ready at that point. So in October, we did sign up at a facility down the street that had an inside pool, and I did 4 days a week, 30-minute lessons.
Yay!
And she really did advance very quickly in that.
Did or did not?
She did.
Okay, yeah.
She did. She got to the next level, if you will. And right now, where she's struggling is jumping in the water. So that's like the next level for her is she's standing up outside and then she's jumping in the water. And so we try to practice at home of, let's jump off the bottom stair and pretend like that's water.
Correct.
But that's different. Then when it's game time.
Yeah. Right.
Do you have any advice for that?
Well, so she can jump, right? Because the other thing I always do is on the side of the pool, when I'm in the pool and the kid's out of the water, I put my hand out and I have them jump over my arm, you know, because I want to see them, I say bunny hop.
Okay.
Okay, we want to do a bunny hop. We want to jump in feet first.
Okay.
Okay, I have so many kids that jump in and face plant and start crying and everything else. Okay. The other thing that I've done before is get out of the water, hold my swimmer's hand, and jump feet first in with them.
Okay.
An idea. And or you can do that as a family. You jump in, with your child, and then, daddy's maybe there too, whatever works, The other thing that I've done before is I've had a hula hoop in the water and it floats. Okay. And again, I always, when she's jumping in, do you hold her hand?
Not the way the lessons are. I'm not in there with her.
Oh, okay. But if you're practicing, so she's standing up on deck, you hold her hand. Again, we're going to bunny hop in. Mommy's got your hand. Okay. Jump in feet first. Or take, one of her favorite floating things. We want to stomp on the toy.
That's perfect.
Or I've done my hand before. Put my hand here, jump on my hand. Again, we want feet first. And then you turn around and you swim to the side or go to the step or whatever. Always turn them around to get to safety.
Perfect. And, one thing that we're so happy with the lessons that we had from you, because we actually were able to utilize one of the skills immediately, where she just fell in to the pool from the side and she was able to crawl to safety. We do the monkey crawl.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Yay.
And so I'm very thankful. The little skills. Yeah. And I kind of think she knew exactly what to do and where to grab. And we weren't even in our own pool, which was also nice, because one of the great things about learning at your own pool is that it's your own surroundings. Right. But when you're not at your own, you're never gonna not always gonna get your own pool. Right. So you need to make sure that you can do the same skills in other places.
Exactly. And that's one of the things when you go to other facilities, you talk about, okay, if you were to fall in, where do you go? Mm-hmm. Okay. Or we don't go here, we don't go there, that kind of stuff. But yeah, any of the, I call it water babies, but any of the toddler baby skills that we learn are the same skills as they grow older. We just add to them always. And so having that basis is so important, I feel like. And then, I have kids that have come to me that haven't had all that, but the ones that do have that, I'm going to tell you, they're amazing swimmers.
Now that we've talked a little bit about bathtub prep, and so many parents probably have a pool if you're in DFW.
Or an HOA.
Or an HOA.
There were no HOAs in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. And then I know it seems like now, even if there's no lifeguards on community pools anymore. So you really have to be on extra watch too. And is there anything you tell parents when you see that they have a pool and they say, hey, we have a pool, we're considering getting a fence or no fence, or, what do you talk about?
Well, I think in DFW you have to have a fence, I guess, but you definitely a fence. Oh, you mean, I know the other fences around the pool, not the housing fence. Okay. Yeah. That's, going to help. There's some alarms, on the back door. But most importantly, like you tell your kids, you can't run out in front of a car.
Right.
It's just continuous rules. You're never to be in the water unless mommy gets in the water first. I do that with my swim lessons. I have kids that are really excited about getting in, and I'll say, okay, Coach Barb has to get in the water first before you can get in. Always. Same thing at your house. But the younger ones, they're not going to know and all, but the fence and the alarm, and just continue to preach your rules, and even when they're in the water and you're swimming and they maybe try to go further or whatever, you're the parent, you have to set the rules, I
know at the beginning of class, you would start out with saying, okay, now, do you go for a toy? If a toy falls in the water, and we would go over certain safety rules. Right. Can you talk a little bit more about what you say to your students?
So never jump in the water and get your toy. Okay. We never eat food or candy or chew gum in the water. Again, mommy or daddy, the adult or whoever, the older adult gets in the water first. You got siblings in the water or friends or whatever. No jumping on somebody, no grabbing onto somebody. That's real important.
What age do you think that, from what you've seen of teaching lessons, do kids start to comprehend those rules?
Probably 3 or 4. I mean, in today's world, I mean, it just blows me away. I really feel like kids that are going to daycare, like, it's like kindergarten. They're so smart. I mean, it just blows me away. I mean, it's not really an age.
Okay.
I mean, the 2-year-old's probably not going to or whatever, but I mean, I've seen some very smart 3-year-olds, and, you know, each child is different. Each sex is different too.
Right. Have you found over time it's easier to teach boys or girls, or just even?
Total even. I mean, I'm kind of a boy mom, even though I have 2 girls. You know, the thing about boys sometimes is they can be over the top crazy, like they just want to run and jump and climb and, you know, that kind of things. You know, each child is different. Yep. Really.
I know Zaza has a little bit of fear to her, and so she's more cautious.
But she's also your first child, and you got your second child, and I've seen that with my own or other families, you know, the other children, because they're watching. And that's another thing when I teach swim lessons. And again, this is something that has my families really helped me find new ways to teach the best way. But I have used, and, you know, we'll hopefully do this with your son, is the siblings or an older friend or something to be my swim helpers.
Okay.
So I will try, you know, concentrating on the younger one, and I will do those skills with the older one, you know, holding them or whatever. I'll say, go do this. And they're watching brother or friend, and you can't even believe it. Oh, how good it works.
How fast they probably pick up on it.
Yes. Yes. And then I know one of the questions that I read was, you know, group lessons versus private lessons. And again, each child is different. You know, sometimes one will learn better in a group lesson because they're watching everybody else, and it makes them more comfortable. A new family that I go to, they don't know me. That was the other reason to have a sibling too. Okay. They're like, who's this crazy lady coming? Right. And they feel more comfortable, you know, with other people being in the water. Now, if we're past that and a child really, we need to work more on the skills and they're okay with just me, then, you know, each child is different, you know, and their attention span, you know, they may really need a private lesson.
Right.
You know, rather than others, you know, and I'm real big when I have groups lessons is the others need to be on the step. Okay. And they need to sit there and they cannot, you know, they need to behave. Okay. While I'm working. And when I'm out working with this other swimmer, I'm never turning my back. Like I have, as a parent, you have eyes all over your head. Right. And so, I will sit kids out. Right. If they're not following directions, because I need them to be safe.
Of course.
I need them to be safe. So,
yeah, and also drowning is silent.
No, you need to be watching all the time. And as, you know, lifeguard too, they, you know, we learn all that. And they just slip into the water, unfortunately.
One thing that someone had told me is that if you're going to shop for a swimsuit, don't get a blue colored swimsuit because it can blend in with the water. Yeah. Have you heard that before?
Like bright, you know, anything different than water. Okay. You know, just bright, fluorescent
yellow and orange. Zaza, that's what you're going to get.
If we're talking about swimsuits, you may say something about goggles?
Yes.
Okay. So, eventually when the kids, you know, are under the water, well, even babies, we don't necessarily put goggles on them, okay? Because we want the water to go over the face. And eventually, just like if you're using the swim cap or you're not, but eventually we want goggles, okay? And of course, I have my favorite goggles and I have the goggles that I don't like. So the goggles that I like are any goggles that this thing is flexible right here. And generally TYR or Speedo sell them. And like, I mean, seriously, if I put them on my face, look, they're not coming off, okay? These other ones, okay, this thing it looks like they're the same, but it's not flexible. It's really hard. And what happens over time is these things turn like that, and they definitely don't suck.
Okay.
Okay. And so we don't want water in their eyes. Here's the other bad one. See, it's kind of turned a little bit. See?
Yep.
Yeah. we don't want these. Even though Speedo and TYR make them, you want these more flexible ones. And I think Walmart even hasn't, I've seen other brands, but as long as this is flexible. Okay, why do we want goggles? All right, eventually, so the whole idea is we want them to look at the bottom of the pool. Right. Okay, why?
Because of the floating
brings
piece.
Their body up. Okay, and all day long I'm having kids look at my feet. I mean, I've owned a few pools myself. I'm not putting any more pools, but if I had to build another pool, I would put designs on the bottom of the pool. Or if you go into a lap lane pool, you see the long lines. Everyone's like, that's decoration or whatever. No, that is a swimmer's driving line. Even as swim team swimmers or adults or anything, perfect head position. And if you're learning all this when you're young, it's amazing as they grow older, because what happens is they're growing this long body. If you don't have even the kids that are very thin, they jump in and they sink. All right. They've got to get their head down right away, and they've got this long body so they can swim correctly and get to safety. Fat floats. Okay. So, the less thin kids or adults, they don't necessarily have to have the perfect head position, but the head position is just so important.
Well, how often, so for goggles, do you recommend getting just a new pair every season? Because or do they really last more than 1 year for kids?
It just depends on if you leave them out in the sun or not. Oh, okay. If you rinse them.
Rinse them?
Yeah, because you've got your chlorine water.
Oh, I've not
is eating. Ours. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it just keeps them longer. And of course, they could get scratched. I mean, I've had some of them for years. Some of the clips might break. The other thing is, this is a little secret, and I carry it in my swim bag with kids that are really swimming good. So sometimes your goggles get foggy, right? And then also, too, this is a great way if they don't get foggy, but maybe in the wintertime, is you take a drop of baby shampoo.
Okay.
And go like this, turn it around, and then shake in the water. Okay. It's the same thing as what swim team people use, that they buy a spray.
What?
No fog in the goggles. I swam master swim team, and I learned that. So on the cage where they had all their kickboards and stuff, they had a big old bottle of baby shampoo with a thing, and I'm like, what's that for? Yeah. Wow. I know. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
So
yeah, when I was a kid, I liked the ski mask sort of goggles that covered my nose. Yeah. I'm sure they make them, but
they do
still, but
they have this
what I liked.
Other thing, I don't have it, but I've seen it from some of my families, that this whole big thing, literally, and it's got a snorkel on it.
Yeah.
And the kids are using it. Whatever makes them swim, I don't care.
Right. Okay. So we've talked on a swim cap. We talked on goggles. We've talked on colors of swimsuits. And so, a lot of our parents might be, of course, just entering I'm going to buy a swimsuit. I need to buy a swimsuit. Right. Any, short sleeve, long sleeve, down to the toes. If you had your pick, what would you sort of recommend?
Well, so outdoors, I see a lot of my families, and I do this too when I'm teaching. I guess you call them rash guards. Okay. Long sleeve, and it needs to be not cotton. And the tighter that you get them, it's less drag. Okay, so any kind of really rash guard or something like that is drag. What does that mean? So when you're swimming through the water, if you don't have something really tight on, it's going to make you slower.
Okay.
Or not get to where you're going. Okay, so the tighter the swimsuit or the tighter the rash guard, the better. Okay, and back on the swim cap too. My favorite swim caps are silicone, not latex. Latex is like a balloon that can bust. Silicone lasts longer. Okay, and doesn't hurt as bad when you're putting it on your head.
Okay, so you need to rinse the swim cap too with just water afterwards?
Not necessarily, but another kind of tip, I guess this happens especially with blondes, is, and a hairdresser told me this a long time ago, is you always want to wet your hair with tap water before you go swimming, because then the chlorine doesn't attack it as much. Okay, if you don't, especially with blondes, and I was a blonde, a real blonde, you'll have green hair. Right. Or you'll even see it, I've seen it on boys or girls too, the shiny hair. Okay, and we call that swim hair. Or there's another name too, but I can't remember what. Glare hair.
Glare hair. I've not heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you'll see it if you don't either get it wet, or my favorite shampoos are Paul Mitchell No. 3. It's a chlorine
Okay.
extractor, or just look on Amazon, or there's other chlorine extractors, but it really helps, especially if you have blonde hair.
Yes, I actually bought it's not a swim cap, but another type of, almost looks like a shower cap, so that with my color treated hair, yes, it's color treated.
So the cap is going to help that too, yeah. But do you wet it before you get in?
No, I have not. I've actually just been trying not to get.
Oh, okay. Hair wet.
Which is not good when you're trying to teach your kids swim.
Right.
To say, just do this, and me not
go under. Right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be doing a better job of that. So I will do your tap hair recommendation for sure.
Tap
Thank
water,
you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
can we talk about the wetsuit?
Yes. Let's talk about the wetsuit, which is right here.
Okay, so again, I've learned this over the years. As getting older, I get cold. So I have gotten this wetsuit jacket. I have wetsuits too from triathlons, but I'm not walking in with a wetsuit on but this totally keeps me warm. Okay. And then the other thing that I've learned from seeing swim lessons that Louisville School District does to all their elementary kids, because a swim team pool is generally really cold, they put little short wetsuits on their kids. So they're long arms. They have it like all the way down shorts. And I don't think they're having them all the way to legs, but it gets you in the water faster. Like if you have a home pool or HOA pool, and it's expensive to heat. Okay. And it gets you in your pool rather than having to go someplace else and swim or whatever. In fact, the other thing that's really cool about a wetsuit is it helps you float better. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So especially the kids or whatever, right? Yeah, it's a really good thing. So, and the other thing about cold water, especially I'm different than other swim instructors. Like swim instructors will say, okay, we're starting May 25th, and the water can be, and they've pre-taken all this money and filled up their spots or whatever. And I've learned over the years, well, especially in Texas, May 25th may not be warm water.
Unless you have a heated pool. Right.
Or what's warm for your kid may not be warm for this other swimmer. Okay. So I always tell, and it takes more of my time scheduling lessons, but you call me or text me and let me know when you've been in the water with your child and they're comfortable. Why? Because you're not going to learn how to swim when you're freezing. Especially also too with my adult beginners.
Right.
You know, and then, okay, so yeah, you're in, and again, the wetsuits help, and then here comes rain. Okay. Well, the rain is going to drop your temperature again. So I won't schedule another lesson until you're ready.
Okay. So, well, that's really helpful. For our kids, I get them long sleeve everything for right now, even down to the toes, because being outside and the scorching sun.
Yeah, and you have shade.
We do have
a lot of shade, and that cools your pool too.
Yes.
And you can't get in maybe as soon as other families do. I've actually had some families like cut down part of the tree or cut a whole tree down to,
I know.
An older home, right?
Don't give the husband any ideas. It drops a lot of acorns. But I love the shade. And we also have very fair skin. And of course, I really want to preserve their skin.
And sunscreen everywhere.
And so I'm feeling like, okay, that's one part of the body I don't have to do. So here's your toes and your face, and you're done.
That's good.
And so we're really pro sunscreen. So getting into the pool, we have the floaties. And I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on learning how to swim with these? Yay or nay?
No. So,
okay. So tell us why.
Floaties or even the water wings or whatever, a swim instructor's nightmare. Okay? Because it promotes head up. Again, to swim, you have to float. To float, you have to put your face in the water. Okay, now, I don't have a problem with this. Like, once your kid's putting your face in the water and swimming in a whole bunch, but your family swimming and other friends are coming over and it's crazy. Throw the puddle jumper on, Or, if it gets the kid in the water at the beginning, put the puddle jumper on, but still be pouring water over their head or whatever. But back in the day when my kids were learning and we didn't have a pool yet, I'm the only mom in the pool. Everybody else had water. We didn't have these back in the day, but water wings on all their kids, and they're in a lawn chair. And I'm in there watching everybody's kids and, of course, teaching everybody's kids. I never put those on my kids ever.
I remember my dear friends, Mary, told me when she taught her own daughter, who is about 5 years old almost. Now she lives in Florida, and she was telling me that she did not use these because she said they actually do not help teach your child to swim. And I remember that little nugget when Zaza was born. And so from the onset, we really just have not given her anything that looks like this, because I also didn't really want to create a dependency of, oh, I can't go into the water unless I have this.
Pacifier.
Right. Of course, on the flip side, that does mean, as you said, you have to be in the water. Even if you have floaty, you can't just assume the kid is okay, because you can still drown even with this in.
Yeah.
So,
and that is definitely for an older kid. And this is a life jacket.
Okay.
For an infant or a toddler. James grandson probably even couldn't use that. But this, so if they were to fall in the water, it has them go over on their back and their head is back this way. I mean, it also kind of, even when you're in the water with them, it pulls them back.
Okay.
Okay. And we didn't talk about this, but even in swim lessons, one of the things, and with the toddlers too, how are you most safe when you need to get to the side? Okay. 2 ways: rolling over on your back, which we teach all the time, because on the back you can breathe, right? And then, you're still needing to get to safety, roll back over on your tummy, do some scoops, roll over on your back. We call it roll breathing.
Okay.
Okay. And then again, when you roll back over on your tummy, eyes down, slow scoops to get to the side, monkey crawl to safety. Or, if they're not rolling on their back yet, they don't like being on their back, but they've already kind of, done some swimming. I'm just constantly saying, face down, face in the water, reach and pull, get to safety. Again, you have to do what works for each child and where they are swim level wise.
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I've heard about, and for new parents that are just investigating, is, of course, we talked a little bit about private lessons might work for a child in that scenario of a lot of one-on-one time and have that in their own backyard. Of course, group lessons or semi-privates could also work if you want your child to see older kids or just their peers. Oh, that person can jump in. Yeah. And, so I want to jump in. So that could work. ISR, which stands for Infant Swimming
Infant Rescue
Resource.
Uh-huh.
Do you know about that at all?
I do a little bit, and I know it's very expensive. I know you have to bring your swimmer to the pool every single day at the same time for 10 minutes. Okay. There's pros and cons. It works for some kids, and others, it totally traumatizes them. Okay. So what their deal is basically the kid falls in the water with their clothes on and they roll over on their back. Again, it works for some and not others. And again, the ones that have been traumatized,
it's hard to get them back into the water.
They're not back into the water till 6, 7, or 8.
Oh, wow.
With my experience.
From your experience. Okay.
Yeah. I'm teaching, I call it water babies, toddlers, or whatever, which is 2 and younger. I want the parent in the water. Why?
Because of the safety and just their comfort, right?
Yeah, sure. That's number 1. But 2, you need to learn the skills. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're going to be the swim instructor. You're going to, I gave homework. You need to just continually do these skills. I mean, even when the kids are past 2 and I'm teaching swim lessons, it's just me and I don't want a parent in the water past 2, but I'm teaching and lessons over with, I'll have the parent come and I'll show them what we've worked on, what you need to work on. But definitely the parent-child program, I want the parent in the water. Okay. And to learn, and really, to be honest, when you do it in a group, and each child is different. If your child likes the water, it's going to be okay with you and your child and me. If not, really the group session works better because the focus just isn't on them and they're not so scared. Okay. And it's like a water play group. and you see what other moms are doing, and your kids see what other kids are doing, just like in the bigger group lessons, right? And it doesn't make them so fearful. The other thing is, really in a group session, we're only learning 1 or 2 skills each time. Of course, in the private, and again, I'm very honest. If it's not going to work, I'm going to tell you. But if it's a private and your kid likes water, we can do a lot of skills. But in this other big situation, we are doing a couple skills, and then we're singing a song, and the song has the different skills in it, and it's all fun. I mean, swimming lessons need to be fun anyway, but 2 and younger isn't always going to work in a private one-on-one situation. You have to figure it out. But it really, the big group, and it's not about me and taking swim lessons with me. Go and
Explore.
see other programs, But definitely 2 and younger, the parent, I believe, needs to be in the water.
And what would be a good age for parents to maybe even just start their kids in some sort of swim lesson?
Well, I even think, 6 months, pouring over the head, you're learning all these same skills that we continue to do. Okay. If not, I'd say like a 3-year-old. I have videos of, I've had some 2-year-olds that end up being 2 have swam to the side from lessons. They also have older siblings, but you can get your kids in lessons later, but I'm telling you, they can be exposed at 6 months. And if they learn, before they're going to swim lessons, if they learn, at home or wherever, in the bathtub, how to go underwater, and let's say they're 3 and older, if they can, again, be able to go underwater, hold their breath, blow bubbles, whatever, they're going to swim in no time.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, they really are.
Okay. Do you have any interesting stories of a really great success story of someone that had to go through a hurdle and then all of a sudden just surpassed it, and anything you'd like to share?
Well, I've already mentioned my swim team kids, they started from nothing. I have a couple little scary stories that have gotten better. Last year, this child was in elementary school, and he'd had a life jacket on his whole life, and they have a pool. Okay. And he likes the water. Okay. He's been in a life jacket his whole time, which a life jacket's like this. Okay. But he didn't mind the water on his face. He's been splashed, and the mom had him ready, waiting for me to walk in. I'm seeing the family for the first time, and she took him out of the life jacket, and she told me that he was always in a life jacket, whatever, but she had him sitting on the steps, and I'm walking in, I got my towel around me, and maybe I had a shirt on, I can't remember, or always a rash guard, but I'm walking in, literally the child just goes off and starts trying to swim on his own, is like drowning, and I jump in everything and grab him.
Oh, wow.
He ended up being fine, but it was a great teaching moment for the parent and the child. Right. And that kid is swimming.
Okay.
And amazing. But that's, most recent that first time I've jumped in like that with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Walking into a brand new family back, I barely even know, okay, I'm walking in the gate, where's the pool? And I'm literally flying across the yard, jumping in the pool, saving the kid. But he's doing awesome.
Oh, that's great. And in the case of an emergency, people can get CPR training, and you're CPR certified. Yeah. Where could someone get that?
Through any hospitals, Google Red Cross, American Heart, yeah.
Okay. That's really helpful.
I do have a couple of little skills that we learned through. I was telling Sarah Beth that I used to go when all my kids were in elementary and teach Red Cross and as a volunteer.
Okay.
Because I grew up all Red Cross. The whale's tails. Okay, and this is how old I am. I had it on VHS, I had it on DVD, and I was just Googling it. Okay, it's on, the internet, and the rules, and they've changed them a little bit, but this is just great rules as a family. Here it is. and I was remembering them, like I preached them to my kids anyway, but they've changed out. Some of them are.
Okay.
And there's a video for each one of these. Do your part. Be water smart. Swim as a pair with a lifeguard there. First, look around. Is the scene safe and sound? And I love this one. Don't just pack it. Wear your jacket. And this is another old one. Think so you don't sink. And what does that mean? Either roll over on your back or put your face in the water and scoop. Okay? And this is another one that's an older one. And this is great for backyard pools to tell your kids. Reach or throw. Don't go. In other words, if sibling is falling in the water and screaming, help, yell help, okay? Or go get mommy and daddy. You do not go in and you try to save your brother, sister, or friend, okay? Or throw something out that floats and, coach them, tell them to grab on. Again, you've yelled for help or you gone and got help first. Or throw something out, a long towel, pull it in, a rope.
Okay.
Reach or throw, don't go. Okay, and the last one is stay calm, think it through, and you can know what to do.
Okay.
And again, it's Red Cross, Longfellow's Whale Tales. And Longfellow, I think, is the old man that created all this swim stuff.
Okay.
And they turned him into a whale and have done all these cool things.
That's awesome.
Great little videos to show your kids.
I have learned so much today, for sure. I have a lot of homework myself. And, I would say that just, for any facts, as I am very, very sensitive to water in the first place, we actually didn't even want to find a house with a pool because I didn't want to have that as another thing to think about. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, in Dallas, it's actually harder to not find a house with a pool.
Correct.
And so that was the house that we chose. And we're super vigilant as possible. Even when we have a babysitter, I don't have the babysitter give them a bath because you can drown, I think, within an inch of water. Is that right?
Yeah.
And making sure your child is safe is key. I think we're going to definitely have to take some homework home. And I think that a lot of parents learned a lot today too. So I really thank you for being on our podcast today, Barb.
Thank you so much for inviting me, as it's my heart, and I just love what I do in the water and always helping others. And, really that's what we're called to do in life, is to help others. And I appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And you can find Barb on swimforlifetoday.com. And that's the number 4 and the number 2 and the website, swimforlifetoday.com. Thank you so much.